This holiday season, prepare to have the stuffing scared out of you. Thanksgiving. In the town of Plymouth, Massachusetts, the fourth Thursday in November is the most celebrated day of the year. The table is set. The festivities have begun. One uninvited guest has arrived, and this year, there will be no leftovers. Thanksgiving. White meat, dark meat, all will be carved. Thanksgiving.
Cool it, Judy. You're safe. Bobby's here. It's blood. Son of a bitch.
Arrive hungry.
Happy Thanksgiving, Grandma.
Leave stuff. From director Eli Roth. Thanksgiving. You'll come home for the holidays in a body bag.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, a crazed Black Friday shopper that will do anything for some deals, and that is my co-host, a turkey out for blood and revenge. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we celebrate Thanksgiving. And today, what are we thankful for? Horror movies, practical effects, and you guys. And we thought, with Turkey Day approaching, what better movie there is to cover than Eli Roth's Thanksgiving from 2023. I have been ready to talk about this since last year. This is a really fun movie.
It's funny, we were covering, last year was our first Thanksgiving, and we were looking for Thanksgiving horror movies.
Yeah.
And there's not a huge selection, and this came at the perfect time.
Yeah.
I should probably save this to the end, but I think this is moved into the slot for probably the best Thanksgiving horror movie that you can. It's a serious movie. Outside Thanksgiving is obviously fucking hilarious.
It's great,
That's a must
which is
watch.
what we did last year. We were supposed to do the next Thanksgiving this year, but I didn't hear great things about it, and I did enjoy this movie, so I would rather have done this one.
Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of Thanksgivings and not a lot to choose from, so
Yeah,
sure we'll have plenty of time to cover Thanksgiving 3 because they skipped 2, which
yeah,
is
there's no 2.
hilarious.
I do have, a couple small gripes about this, but overall, I had a good time. And I love the Grindhouse double feature from 2007. I'm a big Death Proof fan. So when I heard that they were really going to make this, I was very excited and praying that they were going to kind of stay close to that original trailer that we seen.
Yeah, so when this came out, I know it got like a ton of comparisons to Scream. That's the number one thing I heard.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
a lot of people saying this was Scream, but I actually noticed equal amount of like influence from the OG late 70s, early 80s horror movies.
Yeah,
Specifically, My Bloody Valentine
Yup.
and Friday the 13th, Halloween. You have this tragedy that happens on this holiday or certain day, and then you have a killer that comes back on the anniversary and starts knocking people out. And yeah. And then, of course, you have the 90s part of the very teen, some of the characters overwritten. We talked about that a little bit last week. But the teens getting knocked off, but you have the whole, like, whodunit
Yeah.
part of it.
I watched like the making of on the documentary, and Eli Roth and his best friend who co-wrote this, they had been trying to make this movie since they were like 13, which is wild.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, they literally, noticed back when they were like, 12 or 13 years old that there are a ton of horror movies for holidays, but there was never really one for Thanksgiving. So that's really where the idea for this movie started.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We have like a major one for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of like,
Could thank Canada for that.
yeah, we have a ton of Halloween ones, obviously. We have Christmas ones. We have 4th of July horror movies, but nothing for Thanksgiving. It's a pretty big holiday. So, yeah, this definitely needed to be made. You can tell that this movie is made by people who love horror and love the genre. And man, there's some awesome shit in this movie. I had just from last year, like I had forgotten some of the kills, and I was like, I can't fucking believe that I'm getting what I'm getting right now. Like, this is great. And a really good amount of like kind of humor, kind of like Freddy, and you know how he has that humorous side to it.
Yeah.
I think they did a really good job with that too. So
I also want to say thank you to, I think it's Laurie, LAUR33E. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. You left us a fantastic review, and we are truly thankful for that. And we just want to let you know that we are your friends that you can talk to about horror movies, and you should totally jump on the social media pages or the YouTube comments section and talk some movies with us. We would love to have you there. So come on over. But yeah, we appreciate that, so thank you. And with that being said, let's jump into Eli Roth's Thanksgiving.
Hello, boys and ghouls. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with the show, talk about or submit your movie requests, or just say die, then I got good news for you. You can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facecrook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instascam at grindhousesyndicate.horror.pod, and many gore, which you can always find links for in the show notes as always. And you know what I always say, the morgue, the merrier. So please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. Now, back to the show, kiddies. Frights, camera, action.
And if you really love us and don't want us to dress as a historical figure and go on a murder spree right before the holidays, give us a review.
I don't know, man. That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. Thanksgiving is a 2023 American slasher film directed by Eli Roth and written by Jeff Rendell. It was based on Roth's fake trailer of the same name from 2007's Grindhouse double feature. It is the third feature-length adaptation of a fictitious Grindhouse trailer after Robert Rodriguez's Machete and Jason Eisner's Hobo with a Shotgun. The film stars Patrick Dempsey, Addison Rae, Milo Mahim, Rick Hoffman, and Gina Gershon. It follows a small Massachusetts town that is terrorized by a killer in a John Carver mask around the Thanksgiving holiday. It was released on November 17th of 2023. It had a budget of $15 million and a box office of $46.6 million. After director Eli Roth created the fake movie trailer Thanksgiving, plans for a feature-length adaptation began. In 2010, Roth told Cinema Blend that he was writing the script with Jeff Rendell and that he hoped to complete it once he was done with the press for The Last Exorcism. In June of 2016, Roth revealed on Reddit that the script still needed work in order for the film to live up to the trailer. In January 2023, Deadline Hollywood reported that Spyglass Media Group was producing the film. Principal photography took place in Toronto and Hamilton, Ontario from March 13th to May 5th of 2023. So another Canadian-made horror movie.
Seems to be
a trend.
Yeah, the trend, for sure.
In November of 2023, Roth announced on his Instagram page that a sequel had been greenlit for a 2025 release, and in August of 2024, Roth stated he and co-writer Jeff Rendell were handing the final script over to the studio. Yeah, so we're officially going to get a sequel, which I remember pretty much not long after the movie came out, they announced the sequel. So it did fairly well, like when it was first released. I'm excited for the sequel.
Yeah, I remember it was received really well.
Yeah.
That's kind of what put it on my radar was so many people. I know you had talked about the Grindhouse trailer, but when it first came out, man, I seen a ton of people saying good stuff, and the way they end it, you know, they kind of set it up for there to be a sequel. I was, you know, honestly, as good as it did, I'm surprised it wasn't. They didn't try to push it to get it out this year, which I'm kind of glad they did.
I'm glad they didn't.
I'd rather them take the time and make a good movie, but you know how studios are.
Yeah. So ratings, Rotten Tomatoes gave this an 84%. IMDb gave it a 6.2 out of 10. Letterboxd gave it a 3 out of 5. And the Google average audience rating is a 3.3 out of 5. If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently find it streaming on Netflix and available to rent on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple TV for $3.99.
Man, those ratings kind of, I don't know about you, but they're a little low.
I mean, Rotten Tomatoes sitting at 84%. I think that's
Rotten Tom,
pretty good.
But I mean, like all the ratings out of 5, like seemed like it was about 3.3.
Well, you know, I think you got to look at the trend, and the past couple years, the trend has been, you know, I hate to say it, but it's been like a lot of like exorcism and ghost movies and possession demon movies. And this is really for slasher fans, which is not really at the forefront of horror right now.
Yeah. Eli Roth did, would you say it was The Last Exorcism?
Yeah, maybe. It was one of them exorcism movies.
I think he does the slasher genre
better.
Much better.
Yeah. All right, so are you ready to jump into the plot of Thanksgiving?
Let's cut the turkey.
Okay.
You like that?
Yeah. All right, so we start off in Plymouth, Massachusetts on Thanksgiving evening, where we see a figure approaching the front door of a house, and we are immediately in this killer POV that you guys know we love. And as this person approaches the door, we start to hear heavy breathing and ominous music playing. We then hear the doorbell ring, and as the man of the house opens the door, we see that it is a cop. And this cop says, "Sorry to bother you, but we are looking for this individual. He is golden brown, 15 pounds, and has no head." And the man at the door then leans in close and says, "I know where he is, and I will even serve him to a platter to you." And this is where we learn that this cop, who is one of our main characters, Sheriff Eric Newlawn, is here to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with his friends Mitch and Amanda. So Eric comes in and he greets everyone, and Mitch steps aside because he just receives a phone call from his boss telling him that someone didn't show up and he has to come into work. So we then jump to another house and we meet some of our other main characters who are sitting at a table waiting on dinner to start. First, we have Jessica Wright, a 17-year-old high school student and our final girl. Then we have her father, Thomas Wright, who is the owner of Wright Mart and the guy who is making Mitch come in. And Thomas's much newer and younger wife, Kathleen, who had the bright idea to convince him to open the store and have the Black Friday sale on Thanksgiving. Pretty much fucking over all the people that work there who now can't be at home with their families.
Yeah, who wants to go like Black Friday shopping on Thanksgiving?
People that don't have family, I guess, and don't give a fuck about that and just want to like buy shit for themselves for cheaper. I guess.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever spent a Thanksgiving where wasn't like, you know, at home, somebody cooking all day.
Yeah. We also can see here that Jessica and Kathleen do not have a very good relationship, to say the least. So we then cut to Wright Mart, where we see this huge gathering of very angry, very Boston people who are waiting for the store to open so they can rush in and basically act like animals. This is pretty much like those YouTube videos of like the Black Friday mobs just like ravaging stores and like fighting each other over shit and just to save like, $20 on a fucking DVD player or something.
Yeah, I love how they make fun of the ridiculous consumerism.
Oh yeah.
behind the but and it seems ridiculous. Like, you're like, oh, that's stupid. But then when you actually, like, every year there's these videos
Yeah,
of people
keeps
like
happening.
fucking running people over, trampling people to death, people getting in fights over a fucking toaster. Like, so it's funny that they're making fun of it, but it's not so far reaching either.
No, and while writing this and doing some research for the movie, I actually discovered something that was really surprising that happened in real life that's in this movie.
Yeah, that's like I said, it's not surprising. I've always like seen the Black Friday sales, man, and
That's
I'm like,
dumb.
who the fuck? Especially now that we have the internet and they do Black Friday
Yeah.
sales on the internet. Like, who the fuck would want to go and
Deal
just
with that.
be around that many people for
Yeah.
one, and then have to like race and fight for stuff for like, I don't know, half off.
I personally miss when Walmart was open at like 2 a.m. so I could just go into Walmart and there was only 5 people in there.
God, I know, man. The pre-COVID days, like, I used to go to Walmart. That's the only time I ever went to Walmart.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
was-
2 or 3 in the morning.
Because I don't want to be in there with a bunch of fucking people.
Yeah, but that was the best. That was absolutely great. And then COVID really fucked us on that.
Oh, and one of the big reasons why people are acting like fucking idiots outside at this store is because the first 100 people inside get a free waffle iron. Who needs a fucking waffle iron?
And
Like-
I think they made it in a fucking waffle iron.
'Cause it's
something so
dumb?
stupid because it's dumb, but people are like, oh my God, free stuff. Like, I will fight to the death for a free thing that I will never use.
I don't even know if they make waffle irons anymore. I feel like I haven't seen one in a store, but I don't look for it either, so I don't know. So we then jump back to Jessica's house where we see her hanging out with her boyfriend after dinner, complaining about her stepmom, Kathleen. A black SUV pulls up and she informs her dad that she is leaving with her friends to go see a movie. And this is where we meet the bulk of our main characters. So we have Jessica, and then we have her boyfriend Bobby, who is like the star pitcher for the school's baseball team. Then her best friend Yulia and Yulia's boyfriend Scuba, who is a football player. Then her other best friend Gabby and Gabby's boyfriend Evan, who is also a football player. So just to be clear, we got Jessica and Bobby, Yulia and Scuba, and Gabby and Evan. So while they're in the car heading to the movies, Evan is complaining how he and Scuba got into a fight with a member of the rival school's football team, and this has caused a big stir-up between these groups of teenagers. So while on the way to the movies, Evan wants to make a stop at Right Mart for a new phone battery because his is dead, which is dumb. Why don't you just charge the fucking battery you have?
Yeah, it's
I mean, the phones nowadays, you can't even just pull the fucking battery out and put a new battery in. Like, that was like flip phone days. That's not even a thing anymore.
yeah. I mean, the phone I just got rid of, I had since December of 2017, and you couldn't take the battery out
No,
of that. So
no.
that's been long gone.
So also remember, the store is really fucking crazy right now with like people are like waiting outside to get in.
Yeah, this isn't the time to stop and grab
No.
something out of the store.
Well, Jessica's dad owns the store. So the teens ask her to let them in early through like the side door so they can get in before the crowd does. And unfortunately, she agrees to do this.
I feel like the whole battery thing was just bullshit. I just wanted to get in
Yeah,
and
maybe.
fucking piss people off.
So while walking through the crowd, Jessica runs into this guy she knows from school named Ryan. And despite knowing that she is dating Bobby, he asks her out on a date. She, of course, says no, trying to kind of like blow him off. But he then attempts to invite her to his house party. But before she can answer, Bobby catches up and basically tells him to fuck off. And this becomes more important later on in the movie. So while this is happening, we also see Sheriff Eric and Mitch's wife Amanda show up to drop some Thanksgiving food off to Mitch. And they are kind of shocked by this crazy crowd that has gathered at Right Mart. So we then cut to Jessica and her friends walking into the side door, and a very pissed off member of the crowd spots them. And it turns out that this is the same guy that Evan and Scuba was talking about getting into a fight with earlier. And when he sees them going into the store before anyone else, he's big mad. So he calls them out, and this causes Evan and Scuba to turn around and basically talk shit back, making matters much worse. So after they head in, we then see Mitch and Eric head out into the parking lot to inform the crowd that the store opens in 10 minutes and to please calm down. But this doesn't go so well considering the crowd can see Jessica and her friends like already inside looking and stuff. And of course, Evan is taunting everyone by pretending that he is getting all the good deals before anyone else. So naturally, this makes the crowd even more angry. Everyone then starts pushing against the gate, and the asshole guy from the other school then grabs the megaphone from Eric and shouts to run into the store, prompting the crowd to rush the doors. Mitch and Eric then get knocked down, and the security guard takes off running. So, off to a bad start, I would say.
Yeah, this is what you call a massive failure in planning. If
Big
you're going to
time.
have some shit like this, it has, especially when you're offering like the first 100 people something, you need to be super organized. And this was everything
But that.
Yeah, it's and Evan's awful. Can't stand it. Well, Evan's trash.
So the crowd then bursts through the glass doors, trampling the other security guard to death as they rush in. So by the way, this really happened in 2008 at a Walmart in Long Island on Black Friday. The
Yeah.
security guard was killed this way.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned that earlier. I remember seeing like the stories of somebody literally trampled to death. He was trampled to death, right?
Yeah.
By the
Yes, he
people?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like this. Which is wild, because you would watch a movie and you would think, yeah, people get ridiculous at stores, but I don't think it would ever go this far. But it did, and it's happened.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a huge failure in planning. I assume that Walmart was a same situation. Huge, like you see people. We hear stories about people at music festivals getting like trampled to death, and we've been to music festivals, and it's always you kind of think, how the fuck does that happen?
Yeah.
But it always seems to be a lack of planning.
So Jessica and her friends then take cover behind the registers while Evan films the mayhem on a phone. And what we see next is absolutely off the wall. So one guy gets kind of like forced through the door and his neck gets sliced open on a piece of broken glass. Despite this very bad injury, he still attempts to get his free waffle iron.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious.
Love it. Amanda gets knocked down immediately, where she gets like kicked and stepped on repeatedly as people like fight over boxes and stuff. We then cut back to the throat cut guy who, despite him bleeding to death, still grabs his waffle iron. But his victory is short-lived because as soon as he tries to stumble away with it, he collapses from blood loss, where someone else immediately takes it from his cold dead hands.
I mean, did he
I love it.
succeed?
He
Did.
did,
I mean, he died with the waffle iron.
but he didn't get out the store with it.
He didn't, but he had possession of it, and that's
For a
was his
moment.
main thing. And
Yeah.
he died with possession, so I think he succeeded.
Bobby then tries to crawl over to help one of the security guards, but while on his way, he gets his right arm stepped on, snapping it in two. So his baseball days are probably finished.
Yeah, his arms like pretty rough.
Yeah. We then jump back over to Amanda, who is now trying to crawl to safety. But before she makes it, she gets bashed in the head with a shopping cart. Her hair then gets caught in the wheel. As the person pushes the cart away, we see it rip a piece of her scalp off, which looked really good. And I love how we see the person is just like dragging her bloody scalp around the store.
It's even better than that because it's two people run their cart into each other and they're like fighting to get past each other. So these two people are like, oh, fuck this dead bitch on the floor. The scalp rip did look awesome.
Looked awesome. So Mitch and Eric then fight their way through the insane crowd of people only to find Amanda's dead body. And at this point, Eric has had enough and he pulls his gun out, firing a shot into the air. And then we get the title card, Thanksgiving. So we then jump to 1 year later where we see that the footage Evan shot has turned into what he says YouTube gold. I will say, though, that it only had 75,000 views in a year.
Yeah.
Not super great. When you know how YouTube works, that's not gold. Yeah, that's okay. But
he's not even getting like one of the gold YouTube plaque things that they send. And he's not even close.
Which also, YouTube definitely would not allow this video to be on their platform.
No, and this would honestly get a lot more than 75,000 ways, like across other platforms, with there being a massive like massacre of all these people dying over this sale. So for him to only have 75,000, he's actually done awful with the footage that he has.
But the video ends and a mystery person slams the laptop closed, and we begin to pan around the killer's evil lair, where we see news articles informing us that no arrests were ever made, Wright Mart was found not liable, and the deaths were considered an accident. We then cut to a news segment where we are told that despite last year's tragedy, Wright Mart will open again on Thanksgiving. We also see that people are outside the store protesting with Mitch, where he tells the camera that Thomas Wright and his family have blood on their hands. We also find out that baseball star Bobby disappeared after his injury, and the security cameras mysteriously malfunctioned during the incident at the store, which we know is bullshit because we actually caught a glimpse of them recording the mayhem earlier in the film. So we know they work. So we then jump to a local diner where Eric is waiting to meet the new deputy. And when he arrives, we see that this guy is huge. He is a beast of a man. We also see here that in celebration of the up-and-coming Thanksgiving, a lot of the businesses are handing out these little plastic masks of John Carver, who was the first governor of the new Plymouth colony. Rob Zombie would love those masks.
He absolutely would. He may have one.
That man loves a cheap plastic mask.
They released them. I don't know who did it, but I've seen them.
Trick or Treat Studios, maybe?
I thought maybe. I mean, I'd say it's a really cheap mask for them, but that's what it's supposed to be. Which I kind of love the simplicity of it too.
Yeah. We then skip over to some kind of Thanksgiving festival thing because these people take Thanksgiving very seriously. But Gabby and Jessica are talking about how they just got tagged in the Wright Mart video by a mystery person. And also, Evan's YouTube account had been hacked, and that is actually who posted that footage. Evan claims he did not post it. Someone else posted it. So the Wright family then meet up at the historic John Carver house to film a commercial. When they discover that the place has been heavily vandalized, even spray painting Fight Mart on the wall, which is pretty funny. Thankfully, Eric is there and he is able to call this into the sheriff's station. And while he is doing that, it is discovered that a historic axe was stolen from the wall. I have a feeling we will see this axe.
Yep. It's stolen axe. That's good shit.
Yeah.
You know, that's already setting up the killer's his main
trademark.
weapon.
Yeah. What we are starting to see here is someone is very pissed off about the Wright Mart tragedy and is holding the Wright family responsible.
What do you think for axe for a pilgrim slasher? I think an axe is
perfect.
a pretty good pick.
That's the only thing they had back then. Really? I mean, they had a musket.
That's all
but,
they had.
I mean, they had a musket, but
Yeah,
it'd take too long to kill everybody with a musket,
can't
especially
have-
if you missed the first shot.
You can't have a horror slasher where your main weapon is a musket.
Now, I would be cool with him killing one person with a musket,
Yeah,
but not his signature weapon to be a
you
musket.
gotta have a signature, and
Yeah.
I think the axe was a good pick.
You know, he should have been like the guy from I Know What You Did Last Summer that always had to show everybody his hook. He shows everybody his axe. Like, yeah, look at my axe.
I got a crook in my
Yeah.
axe here. You see that?
So we then jump to that local diner where we see Jessica and her friends hanging out. Jessica thinks that she spots her ex-boyfriend Bobby, where she mentions that she hasn't talked to him since last year. They then all get tagged in a photo of a table very nicely set for dinner by a profile named The John Carver. The group doesn't really understand who this profile is or why they were tagged in a picture of a table, but they pretty quickly drop the subject when Jessica's new boyfriend arrives to hang out with the gang. And it turns out she is now dating Ryan, the guy that hit on her the night of the Right Mart incident.
This guy's fucking awful.
He sucks. I hate him.
I hate him from the first scene he was in.
So we then skip to later that night, and we see the diner has closed, leaving only one waitress to lock up. And it turns out that the waitress is the one who was seen angrily hitting Amanda in the head with the cart. So she is the bitch who killed Amanda and then dragged her fucking scalp all around Right Mart.
And this lady looks like a lady who you would see on TV, like fighting for Black Friday. Like she is one of those Black Friday fighting people.
So interesting thing about her is she's actually from this area, and this is her real accent. She's also a huge horror movie fan. Her biggest dream was to be killed in a horror movie, and she finally got it. And Eli Roth says that after they filmed her kill scene, she was so excited she got super emotional.
Nice.
That's cool.
Wait, from our area?
No. She's from
Boston?
like Boston area. Yeah. Yes, her real accent.
I was about to say, I thought you meant like from
No.
South Carolina area. I'm like, I don't know where the fuck she got that accent from.
So as she's finishing up, we see a man dressed in all black wearing one of those plastic John Carver masks everyone's like handing out and wearing. And he's also got one of those like pilgrim hats on, and he's lurking behind her. She then walks to the back where she goes to grab her coat. The man then jumps out of nowhere, slamming her against the wall. He then slashes her hand with a knife, dips her face in a sink full of water, and then presses her face against the walk-in freezer door, causing her skin to instantly bond to the metal.
That's creative.
I love it.
That's good stuff.
He then leaves her there for a moment to go grab his axe, and while he is gone, she peels her face from the metal door, ripping her skin from her face and hand. She takes off running into the manager's office where she locks the door and attempts to use her phone to call for help, but unfortunately for her, the touchscreen won't work because her hand is covered in blood, and the facial recognition doesn't recognize her now that she is missing some of the skin on her face.
She's literally missing part of her face. Doesn't work.
Yes. She then thinks that she hears Carver exit the store, so she cautiously comes out of the office. She then grabs her purse and attempts to make it to her car in the parking lot. I don't really know why she didn't like grab the phone at the diner and call the police.
Because she's stupid.
She's a stupid.
She literally murdered somebody on Black Friday with a cart.
Yeah.
Like she's probably not the smartest of people.
Anyway, she's running to her car. She's searching for in her purse for the keys when suddenly her car's headlights turn on, showing that Carver is behind the wheel. She then takes off running towards the back of the parking lot, but unfortunately for her, she isn't athletic enough to make it before Carver slams her into a big metal dumpster, causing the heavy lid to fall, cutting her in half. That is one hell of a fucking lid.
Yeah,
That's like a 200-pound lid.
So there's a lot of, and the practical effects on this look great, but there is a lot of awesome kills in this movie. This is the one, and I remember the first time I watched this, I was like, I wonder how this is gonna go. Because I remember watching it, and I'm like, how did she get cut in half? Like, how did she literally just get cut in half by the trash can lid falling on?
Because it's a 200-pound lid and it has a extremely sharp edge on
It'd
it.
have to be like a 2,000-pound lid to cut her in half. She's not exactly a small person.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
So the next morning, we see news people and citizens gathered outside of Right Mart as Eric pushes his way through the crowd. And when he looks up, he can't believe his eyes as he sees the waitress's severed bottom half of her body placed onto the Right Mart sign. Kind of looks like the star in the logo is like up her ass.
It is up something, that's
Yeah.
for sure. This is impressive. Impressive showboating. I
Yes.
thought this is kind of another nod or ode to the 80s slashers.
Oh, for sure.
You know, always, and this is a good one, man. Even Jason, I feel you have a hard time getting a body up on a sign.
I love how they had the streaks of blood where you could see like he got on the roof and like lowered her down.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a good touch. So later that morning at school, Jessica and the gang all get tagged by the John Carver account again, but this time it is a photo of the body placed on the Right Mart sign. Jessica then goes back to the original photo of the table, and when she zooms in, she discovers that there are name cards next to each plate. And these names are of Jessica, her dad, and her friends. So John Carver is most definitely targeting her, her family, her friends, and other key players in the Right Mart tragedy. And over at the diner, the cops are doing their investigation where they check the surveillance footage, and this is where they discover that the killer is dressed in the John Carver mask that everyone in town's wearing. We also hear Jessica on the phone with her dad, Thomas, and he tells her that despite what has happened, he is hiring extra security, but still not closing the store for Thanksgiving. This man wants to make that fucking money.
Yeah, I feel like his commercial would have been like, if you thought last year's sales were to die for, like
We're cutting them even lower this
slashing
time.
the prices.
Yeah. So after this, Jessica and her friends head to the sheriff's station to talk to the cops. She then heads into Eric's office where he asks her to help identify people that was at Right Mart that night that may be targeted by the killer. She doesn't really give him any info, but he knows she's holding something back. He then pleads with her to do the right thing and come forward with like whatever information she's hiding. Once she's finished up her interview, she leaves the station where she runs into Bobby, who is standing out front by his uncle's tow truck, who he works for from time to time. One thing I don't understand, I've seen this movie probably like 4 times now. Why does he lie about being at the diner the day before?
I don't know.
Because when they think they see him and he goes out that door and he turns, you can clearly see it's him. It's 100% him. And he says it's not. And I was like, man, is this just going over my head or something? Like I'm just not catching on. I don't understand why he lies about that.
I don't get why he lied about a lot of stuff and he just kind of ghosted. I mean, I get him being like depressed over his arm situation, but yeah, I thought it was really weird. Which really kind of makes him look very suspicious. He's kind of set up as if you're looking deep at this, kind of a could he be the suspect? They
do that a lot for a lot of characters.
Yeah, and they do a good job at doing that.
Oh yeah,
this is kind of a not as obvious one, but with him kind of coming back in the picture, now all these kills are happening. Very suspicious.
So he then apologizes for just like taking off and not speaking to her for so long. They kind of make up and grab some coffee together. He then asks her what's wrong, and she tells him something that she hasn't told anyone about that night. So right after the Right Mart thing, Kathleen, her gold-digging bitch stepmom, started ranting about bad publicity and being sued. So she went into the security room and deleted all of the footage from the incident. But what nobody else knows is that everything is backed up on her father's computer in his home office. So Bobby's like, well, tell your dad that you need it. And she's like, no, he's too worried about lawsuits and stuff. So she is going to go look at it for herself and see what she can find. Bobby then goes to head into the station for his interview with Eric. But right as they are saying goodbye, Jessica's new boyfriend Ryan shows up. And needless to say, Bobby isn't so happy to learn about their relationship, and Ryan isn't too pleased to see Bobby back.
Yeah, this is a tables have turned from the beginning of the movie.
Have tabled.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite.
So, I'm not saying what Bobby did was cool, but I'm Team Bobby.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
I like Bobby much better. I think that it was fucking stupid that he ghosted her and took off, and that's pretty awful. But God, I hate this other guy.
I don't know what it is with Ryan. He has that I'm better than you because I'm rich attitude.
He says it at one point in this movie. He's like, people like you tow my Porsche.
Yeah, I
And
I can't stand him.
That's a stupid thing to say, because if your Porsche is having to be towed, it's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, you've probably not financially done well or paid your bills. He kind of gives me vibes too of one of those guys that's like, hey, Jessica, have you ever tried pegging? He's totally a pegging guy. I get that vibe.
He gives me frat boy, gonna slip stuff in this girl's drink.
That too. So we then cut to the apartment of the security guard that took off running the night the crowd broke through. And we see that he is quickly packing for a sudden trip out of town. I guess after the murder of the waitress, he knows that he may be on the killer's hit list.
This guy loves running.
Yeah. He, it was like Julie from the last movie we covered. She ran away 7 different times in the movie.
It's like for Night of the Demons.
Oh,
What's his
yeah.
He just runs from everything the whole movie.
I don't remember his name, Dwayne or something. I don't remember, but yeah, and he was you won't catch me, and he ran really right out of the fucking
jumped
window.
Through the window. I'm surprised the security guard didn't. He just Kool-Aid manned out of the fucking apartment or out of the house.
So we see him place his passport down on the table and begin to get a bag ready, but when he goes to grab the passport again, it is now missing. I feel like this happens to me all the time. I sit some shit down and 30 seconds later, it's gone. I gotta spend 5 minutes looking for it. This is a daily thing for me.
You're being stalked by John Carver?
Maybe. So he begins frantically looking for it when he suddenly becomes suspicious that someone is in his apartment after spotting a plastic John Carver mask placed on the couch.
That's pretty suspicious.
Yeah, that is very suspicious. He then grabs a baseball bat and demands the intruder come out of hiding, even informing the person that he is a security guard. Because I guess he thinks that's intimidating.
You got to put the best part of the quote. I'm a security guard. I kill people every fucking day.
No, you tell on people every day. You call the real police every day. If you're in a situation like that, you should yell out I'm a cop, or I'm an MMA fighter, or I'm a knife throwing champion.
I would just
something.
Yeah, I got a gun.
I got a gun, and I'm a gun instructor. You're fucked.
I feel like there's nothing you can really say in that point that's not going to make somebody be like,
I'm also a serial killer. I kill people too, so either we can kill each other or we can team up. Which one you want? He then spots his cat, who is just staring at him while sitting on the kitchen counter. And he asks this cat to tell him where the intruder is. As people who own cats, I would not trust, our cat to even pay attention. Cats are so fuck you, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And they're not very helpful at all. They're not like dogs where they're showing people where somebody's trapped in a well. They're oh, he's trapped in a well, who cares? Cats just aren't animals like that.
Yeah, if anything, if your cat gets freaked out, its hair might puff up and shit, but cats do that shit all the time.
Yeah. So the cat then looks towards the other side of the kitchen, making him think the killer is hiding in there. He then begins to slowly walk in that direction with the bat raised while talking shit. But before he makes it to the doorway, Carver, who was hiding behind the dining room table, stabs the man in the stomach with a turkey carver, which I hate the CGI blood in this scene.
Yeah.
I hate it.
There's a couple spots.
There is, and I call them all out. But man, like, I remember when I seen this, I was like, is this where we're going with this? Because are we going to do a lot of CGI killing? Because I don't think it's going to work.
This is only the second kill, and the first kill I thought was just like it was cool, but it was at the same time like, okay, that's super
Yeah.
realistic. So, but they do get better. I will say that
They do. I just don't understand the use for the CGI. Like in this scene,
Yeah.
why? It's probably cheaper to just get fake blood.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The only thing I can think of is like maybe, their blood pumps or something when they went back and watched the footage and editing, it didn't do as good. Maybe something malfunctioned and they had to add it in there after the fact, but
I'd rather see the fucked up version than the CGI version.
you know who that doesn't happen to? People like Damian Leone. Like if your fucking blood pump doesn't work, get another one. Reshoot it.
Or just fucking squirt them with blood like out of a fucking bottle. Like, I'll take that before I take CGI. So the man grabs his stomach and stumbles back as Carver jumps up and wraps a piano wire around his neck. Carver then spins around while holding the two ends of the wire. He pulls it tight, cutting the man's head clean off, which honestly, kind of a cool move. I did like this. And the head cut was legit. I give it to him. That's a good practical effect there.
Yes, the beheading was done really good.
Yep.
I thought the whole piano, like, I was like, good God, who is a ninja?
He is
Like,
he is a ninja.
like, everybody look around and see who's a ninja in their friend group, and it's this guy.
Carver then places the man's head into a duffel bag as his body lays on the ground like pouring blood from his neck. Carver then goes to leave, but he hears the cat meow before opening the door. He kind of stops for a moment and looks down where he sees the cat sitting by his food bowl. He then fills the bowl up with food, pats the cat on the head, and leaves the apartment.
Nice touch.
It doesn't matter because that cat's going to start eating that body within an hour.
Yeah. That's pretty grim, but that's what happens.
That's a thing. Yeah, apparently that is a thing
I
where
feel
cats
like-
will eat your dead body after 1 hour.
You think this cat was just tired of this guy? He's tired of having to live with this fucking guy. That's why he kind of looked him off in the kitchen to make him think the killer was somewhere else.
Yeah.
The cat knows what's going on. It's like, I need a new owner.
I need to relocate. Also, this is the same cat from the 2019 Pet Sematary remake.
What a famous fucking cat.
Eli Roth said that this cat was such a good actor that he called him Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's good.
It is. We then jump to Carver's bad guy lair where we see him remove the name card from the setting and place the dead man's head on the plate. The camera then pans down where we see right across from his head is the upper torso of the waitress lady he killed earlier. So he is placing all of his victims around this very nicely decorated Thanksgiving table as he kills them. The head looked really good here too.
Yeah, I was really happy to see her upper half because I was like, that's awesome showboating putting her up on the sign, but the upper half of
Where's
her
the good half?
would have made a much better sign, but this was smart. Put the upper half on the internet where it'll get better exposure.
Yeah. But like clockwork, the very next morning we see Jessica tagged in John Carver's new photo, prompting the police force to bring everybody in to search for Carver's location. So at the diner, they've found some little pieces of brick, and they have somehow tracked down what building this brick came from. And they are sending the SWAT team and other officers to search this place, which is like this like industrial area of like closed down factories and buildings.
This is some straight up CSI shit, like some brick forensics, some crazy shit that happens on all those detective shows.
Now, one thing I hate, it just bugs me, is when Eric is explaining the plan to everybody, and the SWAT team's like standing there with all their gear on, including their helmets, which, you know, coming from, we once had a profession where we wore these helmets. Nobody would wear these helmets inside during a briefing. But that's not the point. That's not what bugs me. What bugs me is the lady SWAT officer has her helmet like unbuckled, causing the helmet to sit crooked on her fucking head, and it looks stupid.
That is my biggest pet peeve.
Yes.
Of the helmets that we had in the Army is when people didn't like adjust it right or fix the pads. And for people who don't know, you can Velcro, you can adjust the pads how you need it inside, and then you have the chin strap. And it's one thing in basic training where like 75% of the people's fucking helmets cocked sideways.
Yeah.
It's awful looking.
Well, you don't know what you're doing yet.
Yeah, you don't, but she should know what she's doing by this point.
It drives me nuts. Like the whole briefing, she's standing over there looking like a fucking idiot. I hate it. Like, just take the helmet off. Can't wear it right.
She
must be new.
She's definitely new.
So we cut to Jessica, who is in her father's office going through the backup footage. And she starts finding things that she wants to show Eric. And one of those things is a video of her now boyfriend, Ryan, meeting with the security guard that ended up getting killed that night. The reason this is weird is because he told Jessica, and in his official statement to Eric, that he didn't know anybody there that night except for the friend that he was with. He didn't say shit about this security guard, so a little suspicious. So she prints this and some other photos out, and while she's doing this, Bobby is out in the driveway waiting on her. And speaking of Ryan, he goes to pull up into her driveway, but he stops when he sees Bobby's truck, and he doesn't look too happy when he drives off. Most men would walk up to Bobby and be like, "Hey man, what the fuck? What are you doing in my girlfriend's house?" But Ryan is like, I don't know, he's like one of those rich boys that doesn't want to get his hands dirty. Like, he doesn't want to confront him.
He is a puss.
He is a puss.
That's what we would call that. Yeah. I mean, if I pull up and I seen some other guy outside of my
the
girlfriend's
ex-boyfriend.
house, yeah, I would instantly. I mean, that's especially with it being an ex. You already know what it is. You already know what's going on. Yeah, it's time to get your hands dirty. But this may have also been kind of another kind of red herring push to kind of make him look like maybe he's the killer.
So once Jessica gets the footage printed, her and Bobby head up to the police station where they sit down with Eric and start pointing people out. They end up identifying a kid they go to school with who he always plays the turkey in the parade. And also that guy Lonnie and his girlfriend who stole the megaphone and caused the crowd to rush the doors. This is a really important scene that you don't realize is really important until later on. But after a bit of hesitation, Jessica finally pulls out the photos of Ryan and the security guard. And Eric says Ryan definitely didn't say anything about this meeting in his statement. And of course, Bobby wants to beat Ryan's ass immediately, but Jessica talks him out of it and they agree to keep this quiet for now. Eric then tells them to return to school.
Bobby's just wanting to whoop this guy.
He's just looking for an excuse, which I don't blame him.
That's suspicious. Let me go fight this guy.
Yeah. So we then jump back to school where we see the students reading a paper that they each wrote about Thanksgiving. I love how that one kid reads his about like why he isn't celebrating the holiday anymore. And when he's done, he has to wipe his tears with the bottom of his shirt. Very much on purpose, showing the girls his like super cut washboard abs. It was a good move.
Playing the emotional guy.
Yeah, emotional guy and like super cut dude. And then when like Evan, who bullied that other kid to write his paper, and then the teacher's like, "Yeah, you fucking stole that from my blog that I wrote."
Yeah,
that's a good touch too.
That was hilarious.
So later on, Jessica informs her group of close friends about the Ryan thing, and they all decide that they can't trust anyone but each other. They then talk about their three main suspects, which is Ryan, Bobby, and Mitch. Evan and Scuba want to go after the killer, but Gabby and Jessica talk them out of it and decide to let the police handle it for now. Ryan then calls Jessica again, but she ignores it. We then see Ryan dressed as a pilgrim standing in a dark room, kind of like John Carver. And he's looking pretty pissed that his girlfriend hasn't answered the phone for him in like 2 days. He then walks out of the dark room where we see that he is just in a dress rehearsal for the up and coming parade where he is a character on the Right Mart float. He then runs into Bobby, who is helping set up the float, and they have some words. And Ryan tells him that if Bobby wasn't leaving in 2 days, he would knock his teeth out, which I doubt that. And Bobby responds by saying, "Who says I'm leaving?" as he pats him on the shoulder and walks away.
That's mic drop.
Yeah, mic drop. So we then skip on over to Hanover High School, which is the rival school to Jessica's. And we link up with Lonnie, who, if you don't remember, is the very Boston guy who got into a fight with Evan last year and grabbed the megaphone and started the riot at Right Mart, all that shit. And he gets pulled away from the gym by his very attractive girlfriend, who we also seen at the Right Mart thing. She was in this riot with him. So she takes him to a very dark basketball court in a different part of the gym and tells him that she has a surprise. And when I first seen this, I was so excited because this is my favorite part of the original Grindhouse trailer. I was praying that they would put this in the movie when I heard they were going to make it. So she tells him to sit on this ledge and wait while she goes and flips a light switch, turning on a spotlight that's pointed at a trampoline setup on the basketball court. So she gets on this thing and she starts jumping and she's like lifting up her cheerleader skirt, slowly removing her underwear.
What a thoughtful girlfriend.
What a dear-hearted woman. But unfortunately for Lonnie, he never gets to see those panties come off because Carver sneaks up behind him and snaps his neck, killing him instantly.
He's definitely got a post-mortem erection.
Yeah. Now that's a real thing too. Now the girlfriend, she has her back turned when this happens, so she doesn't see this and she continues jumping. When all of a sudden, we see a knife blade sticking up through the trampoline, stabbing her foot as she comes down, which is a little disappointing because it's not as good as what happens to the original cheerleader in the trailer. I'm pretty sure the original one, if I remember right, she does the splits and comes down on the knife. Yeah, which is so much more worse.
Yeah, well, I didn't see the. I think you did.
Yeah,
see
we've
the
seen
trailer,
it,
but
yeah.
I didn't remember it, and I was very happy with this. The knife through the trampoline thing. Like we talk about, there's certain kills or things that happen in these movies that sometimes is really cringe. Like, and especially anytime it's an eyeball or something. Coming down on a trampoline on a knife going through your foot. That made my foot hurt a little bit when I seen it.
Yeah, this is also just a really fun idea, really fun kill.
The whole setup of it is.
I feel like it's
fucking
very
awesome.
Friday the 13th, you know,
It is.
where you see like Kevin Bacon smoking the joint and the fucking arrow comes through his neck. You know, it's very similar to that.
I think it's very just 80s
Yeah.
horror, slasher horror in general. I think this movie did I heard a lot of comparisons to 90s slashers, like teen slashers when this came out. But I think they did a great job at slashers as a whole, like giving a huge shout out to the late 70s, 80s, and 90s slashers.
So she screams in pain as she falls onto the trampoline. She then bounces again, like off of her side. And this time, she lands right on the knife, stabbing her in the back, killing her instantly. I fucking hate that they ruined this with CGI blood, man. Like, why? Why not use why not use real fake blood?
Yeah, that's the one bone to pick with Eli Roth for me in this movie.
The guy
he
who-
makes Demon and Exorcist movies.
The guy who made Hostel is using CGI blood.
Yeah.
And it's not even like something that would be it's not even difficult to do a practical effect for what we see here. It'd be super easy.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things too about slashers is And I talked about this last week, actually. That's when we did I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's a huge thing that movie's missing that you have to have in a slasher is good practical effects and it's actually like seeing the kills. I think that's extremely important. And unless you're like John Carpenter and you're making the original Halloween, which most movies aren't
on
that level. We really need that, and this movie gives us a lot of good stuff, but there's just some CGI stuff.
They should have left it, yeah. So after this, the football team finds out from Eric and the coach that the game against Hanover has been canceled, and this causes Evan to have a meltdown. Is it me, or are the numbers on their football jerseys way too small?
I don't know.
They're really tiny, and I was like, well, I don't really watch football, but their names on the back of their jerseys are like bigger than the number.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to that, but that's not right.
It looks weird, man. It's like looks weird to me.
It's a conspiracy.
Yeah. So before everyone in the school's parking lot clears out, one of our side characters, McCarty, fires off a blunderbuss, saying that he just wanted to use it if they won the game. Jessica then starts complaining that years ago her dad made her learn how to load and shoot one of those guns, and this comes back later, of course. And Eric calls him, I think he calls him a fucking gooba chucka.
Oh,
which
is that a thing?
It's like a Massachusetts saying.
Is it a real?
Yeah,
Awful.
I was like, oh, I gotta call somebody a gooba chucka one day.
I would honestly.
He's a fucking gooba chucka. That's so great.
Yeah.
What is that?
If I called somebody that, I would get anxiety. I'd be embarrassed.
A fucking gooba chucka. Yeah, it's funny.
If I was with a friend that called somebody that, I would get secondhand embarrassment. I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck that was. I'm sorry.
So Eric tells the teens that they need to head home because they found blood in the gym. So Jessica waits in the school's lobby while Gabby and Evan go to the locker room to change. But once they come out, they get kidnapped by Carver. Jessica, who is still waiting in the lobby, gets a text from Gabby's phone asking her to come to the locker room. But while she is walking down the hallway, she finds Gabby's phone in a trash bin, causing her to quickly realize this is a setup. Carver then sneaks up behind her, but when he swings the axe, she sees his reflection in her phone screen, causing her to duck and avoid the axe blade. She then takes off running with Carver in hot pursuit. She manages to hide in the cosmetology classroom, which I originally was like, that's not a real thing. Like high school wouldn't have this.
They do. My high school had it. Brooke took.
Well, it turns out
I think ours was like nail tech or something, but I think they did hair.
It turns out this was not in the original script. When they actually went to film at that high school, they've seen this cosmetology classroom and they came up with this whole scene just to put it in the movie.
I feel like if the camera was a little bit further back from the perspective that John Carver would have, it would be so hilariously obvious that she is the only thing with a body squatted down at this table. Like it wouldn't even be, they have to shoot this where, it's shot really high.
Yeah.
You can only see the heads at the bottom of the screen. I would laugh. If I was a serial killer and somebody tried this, I would literally be like, you know what? That's so funny. I'm gonna give you a 10-second head start. I'm gonna let you go.
I mean, we've talked about it before, where it's like the scene in Scary Movie where she's like, "I can see you hiding behind the couch."
Yeah, kicking his feet.
He's like, "Hold on, let me move."
Yeah, I will say. So the setup to this, whenever he comes up behind her, they do a really cool with the cinematography, where right before they cut back to her seeing the phone, you barely for a split second actually see somebody coming around the corner, and then when they go back to it, he's right behind her. I thought that was a really cool touch how they set that up with the cinematography. If you don't pay close attention, you won't even notice it in the scene before.
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
She should have got the fuck out of here, man. Like as soon as she heard her phone, knowing that there's a serial killer going around killing people, and she's at the forefront of that. She should have just dipped as soon as that happened.
If she wasn't such a gooba chucka, she
God-
would have thought
God
about that.
Damn it.
So Carver cuts on the lights and starts like looking for her in there. We see that she is like hiding with the mannequin heads, which, like I said, would be pretty obvious, but apparently he doesn't notice. And he's like looking around, and while he's doing that, she reaches for a pair of scissors, accidentally knocking off a can of hairspray, alerting Carver to where she's hiding. Carver runs over to hit her with the axe, but she manages to spray him in the eyes with the hairspray, temporarily blinding him as she gets away. She then manages to make it to the cops that are still sitting out front, ending the attack, but Evan and Gabby are nowhere to be found. After the attack, Jessica is sitting outside giving her statement to the sheriff, Eric, when Bobby and Ryan show up. So, of course, they are not happy to see each other, and both are trying to console Jessica. So this causes both of them to get into an argument where they pretty much are accusing each other of being the killer. Bobby then calls out Ryan about lying on his statement to the police, and he explains that he was just meeting the security guard to buy Adderall, and he didn't really know him that well.
If I was Jessica, I'd be like, well, which one does one of y'all smell like hairspray? Because there's no way that you could cover that up that fast.
Yeah, good point.
We found the weakness in John Carver.
So
Just hairspray.
one thing I really love about this killer is when he's walking with his, he's got his axe and he's got like his, sometimes it looks dark blue, sometimes it looks black, but he's got, like the, what was it? The overalls. We went over this multiple times now. I think it's coveralls.
Yeah, it's a coverall.
But the way he holds his axe and he walks is just like the miner from My Bloody Valentine. I think that's a cool touch.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's also where they did, I think, a shout out to My Bloody Valentine is in Fear Street Part 2.
Oh,
the way
yeah.
He carries the axe like that, which is an ode to those, 80s slashers.
Because that is we've said it before, but that's a really underrated slasher. He then makes a joke about Bobby being poor and him being rich or some shit like that. And this causes Bobby to go after him when suddenly Eric intervenes, breaking the fight up, causing Jessica to freak out, telling them both that she doesn't want to see them anymore. Can we talk about, just real quick, the comically large earmuffs that Yulia is wearing? Then they're fucking massive.
She's from Russia.
Well,
But that's the minimum size in Russia.
well,
It's
I was gonna ask, like, do you think they're like legitimate earmuffs, or do you think that they put them in the movie just because they're so ridiculous?
I think they're probably legit.
Yeah, I think they're just I think they're
Probably
ridiculous.
just tried to put some like more Russian stuff together.
Like, would somebody really wear them? They're fucking massive.
If you don't want to hear anything,
Yeah,
and you want your ears to be warm,
John Carver could have totally snuck up on Yulia and killed her because she couldn't hear shit.
better your ear must be too big than too small.
She
and your
should've-
ears still be cold.
She should have been wearing them later on in the movie, as we find out.
Yes.
So,
Hey, that's a little like
nod to
yeah,
what's about to
nod.
happen. So after this happens, Yulia's father shows up, demanding that she get into the car, telling her that they are flying to Florida immediately in order to keep her safe. So a little later on, we see Jessica and Scuba head on over to McCarty's house party, where they ask him for some protection, aka they need a gun. So McCarty takes them up to his room, where he shows them some guns that are way too big.
I gotta stop right here. The guitar case. He busts open this guitar case, and I'm like, okay, there's gonna be like a rifle or sawed-off shotgun or something in this whole big ass guitar case. He's got 3 cutouts for 3 little pistols.
Well, I wouldn't say they're little pistols. Like one of them's
They're
like a
pistols,
big
though.
ass Desert Eagle, but yeah, he could have fit way more guns in there for sure.
Yeah, if you're gonna make like a secret gun case out of a guitar case, you gotta fill it up.
Yeah, he only uses about 30% of the.
I was so disappointed. I mean, he could have in the long part of the guitar had like a sawed-off shotgun or something in there.
Yeah.
So I was let down by that. Probably too much.
So Scuba ends up settling on a regular size pistol that he could easily conceal. I do like McCarty. I like him as a character, and I really hope that he's in the sequel. He's a fun character.
Yeah, he's one of those overwritten but fun characters.
Yeah, but he's fun. So we then jump on over to Yulia's house, where we see her frantically packing for Florida. We also see that there is a sheriff's deputy there guarding the house while they get ready to leave, but unfortunately, he is doing more eating than guarding because we quickly find out that John Carver has entered the chat room. So he sneaks up behind the cop and shoots him with a tranquilizer dart, immediately putting him to sleep, allowing him to make Yulia and her dad his next victims. So Carver sneaks around the house where he pretty quickly downs Yulia's father with the tranq gun, leaving Yulia upstairs unknowingly all alone. She then gets a FaceTime call from Scuba and Jessica, and while she is telling them about leaving for Florida, Carver comes up behind her, jamming two of those, like, the little things you put on corn cobs, like hold them.
So I came up with corn steaks.
Corn
That's
steaks
what
were,
I
I don't know what
they
they're
might be called. That's what I'm going with.
Oh, corn steaks.
Corn steak or a corn kebab. Something
called like corn
that.
handles.
Really sharp ear protection.
Yeah, he rams them right into her ears, which makes me feel like really uncomfortable.
It's one of those cringe,
Yeah.
like my ears hurt moment.
So she falls to the floor in pain, and Scuba and Jessica see this happen on the phone screen, so they immediately like spin the car around and head for Yulia's house. Yulia then rips the corn things out of her ears, causing her to barely be able to hear shit, which she should have had.
She probably couldn't hear shit
Yeah.
when they were in either.
Well, like they don't do the whole like sound of her barely being able to hear until she pulls them out. I don't really get that,
Doesn't
but
make sense. She should have had those damn ear muffs.
that's what I said.
She'd have been all right.
Should have kept them on all the time.
It would have taken like a corn knife
Corn
to get
knife.
through those things.
She then attempts to crawl away, but is too slow. We then see Scuba and Jessica pull into the driveway and run into the house where they find Carver holding a butcher knife to Yulia's neck. He then holds out a phone showing a picture of Evan, who is still alive, tied to a chair in his evil lair. Basically like, if you shoot me, motherfucker, you'll never find your friends. So Scuba then goes to shoot Carver anyway, but he discovers that the gun is on safety. Carver then uses this moment to make his move, turning the table saw on and pushing Yulia into it. We then see the saw cut through her fingers like bloody butter as she screams in pain.
I love this. This is awesome. I do enjoy this kill.
Oh yeah. We
This
have
is such a grindhouse fucking kill.
Yeah, we have a saw like this at my job, but it has what they call a saw stop on it. And the moment like it senses skin, like a thing fucking stops in a millisecond.
Yeah. So I was gonna mention that good thing for him that they didn't have one of those.
They have not. I guess not. I don't think all saws have it, but
Yeah, it's like a breakaway blade. They actually like it. Literally it breaks the blade. Like once it happens, it ruins the blade. You have to get another one. They're pretty expensive.
yeah, they're about $200 because we've accidentally set them off at work before, and you gotta go buy a whole new one, about $200.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sucks.
It's a little shotgun shell that's in there. So it's not like a shotgun.
If I was your boss,
but
I
it's the
would
same.
not be too happy about that. That's
Well, yeah,
expensive.
thankfully I've never done it. So once it cuts through her hand, blood splatters everywhere, especially all over the table saw, causing Yulia to slip in her own blood and land chest first onto the blade. And it's fucking great. Scuba pulls her off the saw, and you see like all her intestines just falling out. And on the table saw, it just looks like bloody hamburger meat.
The doctors would say she was disemboweled.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to be in the sequel.
No,
I think she's out.
yeah, I think that she's probably not gonna make it.
Nope. So after Yulia gets cut down a peg or two,
That's
Yeah,
got
that's
like
good,
that
yeah.
touch.
we then cut to Jessica, Scuba, Kathleen, Thomas, and the police all gathered at Thomas's house. And they're discussing whether or not they should participate in the up-and-coming Thanksgiving Day parade. And at first, Thomas and Kathleen say it's way too dangerous, but Jessica speaks up and says this is their only chance to catch the killer and find Gabby and Evan. But Kathleen's like, fuck that shit, and she blames it all on Jessica, which kind of ignites this big argument. But Thomas finally steps in and says that nobody could have predicted what happened last year, and this year he has decided to close the fucking store on Thanksgiving. It's about damn time.
Yeah, Thomas is going to be sleeping on the couch for a while. Kathleen's going to be like, how dare you not have my back and cost us money?
Yeah, she's a fucking bitch.
Yeah, I will say they do a really good job with the dynamic between the dad that remarried and the stepmom with the, remarried with an older daughter and them just not getting along, which seems to always be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they play up that dynamic very good.
Well, Kathleen, who loves money, is not pleased to hear this, but Thomas is putting his foot down, which, it's not even her fucking store, man. Like, she should just
This is such
mind
like
her business.
It's like a bitch stepmom thing to do. Like this, it sounds bad, but this happens a lot.
Yeah, they move in and think that, they kind of just take over shit. Yeah, that does happen. So after he says the store is closed, Jessica looks up at Eric and asks if there is any way they can set a trap for Carver at the parade. And Eric already has a plan. So what they're going to do is they're going to put a fuck ton of cops in the warehouse that the floats are stored in. So once the float does like its round at the parade, it will go back to the warehouse where all the cops will be hiding. And when Carver strikes, boom, they got him. Pretty simple plan. I honestly think it's a little too simple, but what do I know? I'm not a cop.
Yeah, I don't think that plan's... There's a million ways that plan can fail.
Yes, a lot. So the next day, we find ourselves at the Thanksgiving Day parade. And we see that the high school guy from the surveillance photos is getting in his turkey costume. The marching band is playing some tunes to warm up. And Mitch is hiding behind a building, putting on a John Carver mask and hat. So is Mitch the killer? We don't know. So the Wright family is all dressed up in their pilgrim costumes, about to head out on the float. And right before they leave, Eric tells Thomas that despite all of the officers he sees now, when he gets back, the building is going to look empty. But don't worry, because they are all going to be on the lookout for the killer. Also, our boy McCarty displays a soft spot here when he gives Jessica his dad's lucky ring from Iraq to keep her safe. So the parade starts and we see the streets are lined with people, the band is playing lame ass music, and there's a big blow up turkey, pretty much your usual parade stuff. And Jessica is keeping a very watchful eye on the crowd, and just like the last movie we covered, she starts seeing people dressed up like the killer everywhere. A lot of John Carver masks out there.
This is very Scream-like in this sense. They've done that a couple times in Scream where they're, a bunch of people's dressed up.
Yeah, they just did this in the newest one on the train. But yeah, we had this same exact scene, and I Know What You Did last summer.
Yeah, that's true. We have Scream 2, 3, Scream 3.
Well, there's Scream 2 in the movie theater. Yeah, this happens a few times.
This happens quite a few times. I think probably the most in the Scream franchise, but this is a very effective.
Oh, yeah. So everything seems to be going to plan when suddenly Mitch and his gang run out into the street, blocking the Wright Mart float with protest signs shouting "Down with Wright Mart," which is kind of weird. I think they'd be saying like "Death to Wright Mart" or like "Down with Wright Mart" sounds like we're with you, Wright Mart.
Kill the killer deal, Wright Mart.
Despite this, the parade continues on after the police surrounding the float basically make them get the fuck out of the way. So after that minor interference, we jump on over to the marching band, which is being led by the guy in the turkey suit. But behind him is this like scary clown, which would fit right into like a Halloween parade, but not so much in a Thanksgiving parade. So the turkey guy is waving at everyone, yelling like "Happy Thanksgiving," when suddenly the scary clown guy runs up and chops his fucking head clean off with one swing of the axe.
That is how you celebrate Halloween past October.
Honestly, I loved this kill the first time I seen this movie because I was not expecting it. I didn't notice the clown guy, but I was like, I just chalked it up to like a weird fuck up.
Yeah, you don't think about it really. And you would think that this would be a really bad, like this is the one costume you could wear that wouldn't blend in with everybody. So, I mean, you may catch it, but you don't really expect it. That's definitely the best part of this kill is the element of surprise.
So the clown then starts throwing smoke bombs all over the road as the crowd goes into a panic. Everybody's freaking out, running all over the place. And because they can't see because of the smoke, the floats all come to a stop.
This is some Joker shit.
Yeah, this reminds me of, was it like The Dark Knight?
Yeah, the Heath Ledger one.
Yeah. Also, when the Right Mart float slams on the brakes because they hit a guy, the boat in the back like breaks free and slides forward, putting is it like a mast? I don't know what that thing's called.
I didn't know either. I think it is. I just put the wooden boat hole.
Or that. Maybe the mast. I don't know. But he puts it, it's like a piece of wood on the front of the boat. It goes right through the driver's head, and it is one of the best looking kills in the whole movie.
It's awesome. I love like the over exaggeration of the like it's squirting on his daughters.
Oh,
in
it's so like Grindhouse, man. Just like ridiculous, like a gallon of blood squirting on his granddaughters.
And they're like kids too.
Grandpa, Grandpa, why are you such a fucking gooba chucka?
Grandpa, is your face okay?
So the cops grab the Wright family and Scuba and quickly put them into the back of a cop SUV. And right as an officer goes to jump in the driver's seat, he is shot in the back with a tranquilizer gun, causing him to fall to the ground. The scary clown then chucks a flashbang into the SUV, which fucks up the Wrights and Scuba for a minute. He then leans in and shoots all four of them with the tranq gun, knocking them out as he drives away. So after all that, we then head on over to Carver's secret lair, where we see him cooking something on the stove, and Kathleen is tied to a table. Now, she's pretending to still be asleep when Carver turns around, and he begins to, I think it's called like when you baste.
He's basting her.
Basting, yeah, like a turkey.
This was the moment. Like, as soon as I seen this, the first time I watched this, I was like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah, I was like,
this is it. Like, and she's a bitch. She's an awful character, so you can't wait for her to die anyway. And he starts basting her, tied up, and like putting salt on her and clearly preparing her for a cook, like a turkey. And it was like a light bulb as soon as I seen it. I was like, this is going to be awesome.
Well, honestly, like I had that initial. I had that excitement when I first seen it, but then I was like, oh, I bet you they're setting this up, but then she's going to get away and we're not going to get to see it. And then what happens next, I was like, oh, I'm right. Fuck, I want to see it. But it ended up being wrong.
Yeah, I was so, like, when she's gone, and a second, when he comes back and she's gone, I was so fucking let down.
Yeah.
But this time, I already knew.
Yeah.
Because this is just awesome. This is the ultimate Thanksgiving kill.
So he then walks off to turn this big ass oven on, and she sees this as her chance to get away. Also, he accidentally leaves his mask on the oven and it slightly starts to melt, and it makes the mask look cooler, I think. I like the melted one that he has. It reminds me of the Michael Myers mask from Kills.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely think, it's a very plain mask. I think it looks
better,
cool
yeah,
with some damage on it.
So he comes back where he finds Kathleen gone. So he picks up an old rusty pitchfork and begins to look for her. So while she is like sneaking around trying to avoid him, she comes across Lonnie's dead body, but she doesn't freak out or give her location away. So she manages to get upstairs where she discovers his like cell phone, servers, setup. But she also realizes that they aren't in some kind of like factory. They're actually in an old house with the windows boarded up. So obviously the brick that he left at the diner was to throw the police off, which was a really smart move. Also, while she is up there, she finds the cheerleader's body wrapped in plastic in an old fridge, and she's still alive. But of course, she doesn't save her. She just shuts the door on her because she's selfish.
He had a lot of faith in the police department on that brick plan.
Yeah.
Take that, Horatio. I just imagine Horatio walking in and picking up the brick dust and tasting it.
Putting his sunglasses on.
It's definitely from the southeastern side of the city. It's southeastern brick for sure.
So Carver eventually makes his way up the stairs where he finds Kathleen's bloody footprints, and he basically uses this to figure out where she's hiding. She then takes off running through the front door of this house, and he just like throws the pitchfork like a spear and nails her in the back. But that is not the end of money-loving Kathleen. No, she doesn't die from this. He puts her in that big-ass oven and cranks up the heat. And this is where we see one of the best parts of the movie, in my opinion. Kathleen gets fucking cooked to death. But that is not the last we see of her.
No, so this is absolutely savage kill. It's fucking awesome. And when you see it, you don't think that you think it's going to happen. It's an awesome kill. But we don't think we're going to get it inside the oven shot of it, and this is actually a example of where CGI can come and be a good thing. I don't know how else you would turn like a living person in an oven into being like watching her cook without using CGI. I thought it looked fucking awesome.
I do think too that she gets like he saves or he plans the worst death for her, because despite what she says about blaming Jessica and her friends, which they are at fault, originally, the store wouldn't have been open without her wanting it open.
And then she literally covered up like the camera footage and stuff so the store wouldn't be liable for it because she knew they would get in trouble for that. Yeah, she's off. She is the shit stain of this movie.
So we jump on over to the police station where we see them doing some computer stuff, and the John Carver account begins to live stream his grand finale. But the cops have tracked his position down, so they all grab their gear and head to that location. But when they get there, they don't find anything, and they realize that the killer must be set up in the sewers, so they are all going to head down there. Now we know, because we have seen that they're actually in an old house, that the cops are definitely not in the right place.
It's like some Jigsaw shit.
It is very similar to Saw. So we then cut to Jessica, and she's tied to a chair along with her father, Scuba, Gabby, Evan, and some of the people that he has already killed. And they are sitting at that table that we seen in the very beginning.
John Carver.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look at that. So Carver Kramer walks into the room, and he's using a voice changer, very similar to some Ghostface shit. And he tells everyone to gather around the table. Dinner is served. He then pulls a sheet off of a very cooked Kathleen, who has now been made to look like a turkey, and it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I literally love this.
I do too.
Like when this whole scene was happening, I'm like, I'm so glad that I'm getting this right now.
And they obviously built like a big, a big version of her cooked up like a turkey, which is fantastic effect work.
Yeah, they casted her or somebody's body, obviously. They did a full-on cast and did it, and it looked great.
Yeah. They even like do her arms like wings and her legs like the chicken wing, and then cut her head off.
Yeah, so this is, in my opinion, sorry turkey and Thanksgiving, this is the ultimate Thanksgiving kill that you can do.
Yeah.
You literally cooked her alive like a turkey and then served her on a dinner plate to her family.
Yep.
Savage as fuck.
So he then grabs the camera and he tells everyone they are going to go around the table and tell the world what they are thankful for. He tells Evan that he is going to go first because it was Evan's video that inspired him to make his own. He then forces Evan's head down onto the table and straight up bashes his fucking brains in. And the icing on the cake is that the live stream is getting tons of likes from this.
Yeah, I'm surprised Evan wasn't like, I'm thankful for the 75,000 likes I
Yeah.
got.
This is also a pretty good looking kill.
Yeah, it is. It's all practical here.
Yeah, I did see somewhere something about because he actually uses a meat tenderizer.
Yeah, we actually have one.
And he so I think they
pretty
were
heavy.
Yeah, so he was saying that the reason that he uses a meat tenderizer was because of the waffle iron, because it's kind of similar looking with the little grates in it or whatever.
I just took it as like a Thanksgiving. He's obviously cooked.
Yeah.
He's cooked one. It's something that's used in cooking. But yeah, fantastic.
So while Carver is talking, we see Jessica messing with that ring McCarty gave her, and this tiny little blade comes popping out of it, allowing her to start cutting herself free. Once she gets her rope cut, she then hands it to Scuba so he can begin cutting himself free. And while this is going on, we see Carver cut a slice of meat from Turkey Kathleen's thigh and serve it to Thomas.
Yeah, as if this wasn't awesome enough. We get him literally carving her as a turkey.
Yeah, like Thomas is like throwing up, which I do not blame him, and this would be awful. Especially to like your wife.
You're gonna eat your bitch wife.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
So Scuba finally gets free, and he immediately jumps up and attacks Carver. Carver grabs his axe, causing Scuba and Jessica to take off running, with Carver chasing behind them. They end up making it to the front door of this old house where Scuba gets his arm chopped with the axe. And it turns out that they are in the basement of the house that got vandalized in the very beginning. So once Scuba falls to the ground, Jessica takes off running outside with Carver in pursuit. She ends up running through the woods where she jumps a fence leading into this industrial area. After walking for a while, she comes across the factory where they store the floats from earlier, and she spots a police car parked with the door open. So she runs over to it where she finds a badly beaten Eric who is unconscious. She then spots Carver walking into the side door of the building, where she grabs Eric's gun and goes after him, which, in my opinion, is a terrible plan. Considering twice in this movie, she has said that she doesn't know how to use guns. So
she needs a musket.
So she shouldn't grab a gun and then go chase the killer. What she should do is like use the fucking radio to call for help, or just steal the police car and drive away. But she decides to go after him. So she heads inside where she spots Carver leaning over like he is in pain as he removes his mask. And when he turns around, she sees that it's Bobby. This shocks Jessica, causing her to lower the gun as Bobby runs off. Suddenly, Eric comes up behind her and takes the gun as he tries to comfort her. She tells him that the killer is Bobby, and he tells her to go outside while he looks for him. While outside the building, Jessica hears multiple gunshots as Eric comes busting out of the door, trying to reload the gun. Eric then calls for backup, and we see the building full of cops looking for Bobby. Jessica sits in the office of the building with the new deputy and Eric. The deputy tells Eric that he's got to turn his gun in since it has been fired, so he does that.
You notice, so prior, when he's before the other cops get there, when he's doing the shootout, he has like this black burnt stuff all over the side of his face.
I thought it was blood from where he got hit.
There is some blood, but it's actually like, it looks like it's literally like
no, I didn't know.
The whole side of his face is kind of like a char.
From the mask. So the detective then walks in holding a phone he says he found on the ground that belongs to Bobby and is still logged into the John Carver account. So at this point, it looks like they have pretty much solved this thing.
This way, for somebody who was so thoughtful, it feels way too easy to be solved.
The detective and the deputy then leave the room, giving Eric a chance to talk to Jessica alone. Jessica then asks if Eric can give her a minute before they head to the station. He agrees and walks out of the room. Jessica then uses this time to steal Bobby's phone from the evidence bag. And while sitting there, we see her start to pull off these like little sticker things that she got all over her while running through the woods. Eric comes walking back in asking if she's ready to go, and this is where she notices that Eric's pants also have these little sticker things stuck to them. And it is at this point where she starts putting everything together and realizes that the killer isn't Bobby, it's Eric. Which is, it makes so much sense when you go back and you watch the movie. Like, he vandalized that house so no one would go there later on. He could have his little hideout. Totally knew planting the brick stuff would work. He knew when they tried to do the trap to catch him, to not like try to attack them at the building, to attack them on the road. Like, yeah, this plays out really well.
Yeah, I think the killer reveal was really good. I thought they did a really good job at making a bunch of other red herrings too.
I didn't see this coming. Like, they got me on this when I first watched it.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be one of the teens. Definitely didn't see it being him. The one downside, I was thinking about it, and this came out last year, and so did Scream 6, and Scream 6 did the same thing, where the cop ends up being the killer.
Well, Patrick Dempsey was in Scream 3, and they tried to make him seem like the killer, and you don't find out till the very end that he's not the killer.
Yeah.
Just a red herring.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting that both of those movies had kind of the same, like the cop ends up being the killer. But yeah, man, I thought it was a really good reveal.
Well, one of my favorite parts of it, when you think back knowing the killer, is when she comes in with the surveillance footage and she tells him about the guy in the turkey suit, which he originally wasn't going to kill him because he didn't know who he was. So we see him kill him at the parade. And then there was another, the Lonnie and his girlfriend, because he tells him, like, I need your help to identify these people because they might be victims. So she comes in and identifies him, but really she's identifying him because he's like, I need more victims and I don't know who all these people are.
Yeah, I mean, even down in the very beginning, he's like questioning her, and he's like, I need to know whatever you know, like,
because he needs more people.
Because he wants to also know if anybody knows anything that would lead back to him. So.
Yeah, so Eric then looks down at his pants and puts two and two together and realizes that Jessica has figured it out. He then says to her, if you only would have been stuck on that fence a second longer, basically admitting to her that she was right. So she then asks him about Bobby, and he tells her that he drugged him, dressed him up like Carver, and was going to shoot him so he would take the fall, but Bobby hit him with the tire iron and was able to get away. He then starts telling her why he did all this, and basically he and Mitch's wife, Amanda, were having an affair, and Amanda was pregnant with his child and had plans to leave her husband to be with him. But Jessica and her friends fucked that all up when they caused the riot at Right Mart, leading to Amanda's death. So after all this, Eric then tells her that he's got a killer, and she says, wait, I didn't get to tell you what I was thankful for. She then holds up the phone that's live streaming from the John Carver account, revealing that the whole world just heard him confess to the murders.
This is a Sidney Prescott moment right here.
He's like, you fucking bitch.
This was genius.
Yeah, this is smart. She then tries to run, but gets thrown to the ground by Eric when suddenly a fucking hammer comes flying through the window, hitting Eric in the head. Bobby then runs in and grabs Jessica as they take off into the factory. Eric then grabs the axe and begins chasing them. He then stops at the top of the steps and yells, "This year, there will be no leftovers," which is such a great tagline. So Bobby finds his uncle's tow truck and jumps in the driver's seat with Jessica hopping in the back. They attempt to drive off, but the truck gets stuck on another float. Eric then catches up and goes to hit Jess with the axe, but she blocks it with McCarty's blunderbuss. Bobby finally gets the truck unstuck and takes off, causing Eric to fall out of the back of the bed and onto the ground. But quick thinking by Eric stops them before they can escape by hooking the tow truck cable up to a support beam. Eric and the axe then come walking from behind the big inflatable turkey from the parade. Jessica then loads the blunderbuss up and fires it at the big-ass turkey, causing it to explode, freeing the truck and setting the building on fire, presumably killing Eric. We then cut to the morning where we see cops and the fire department on the scene. Bobby leaves in an ambulance as Ryan comforts Jessica, which I fucking hated. Hated that they ended it with that. A fire captain then comes out of the building and informs the detective that they searched the whole building and couldn't find Eric's body, but they don't believe that anyone could have survived the blast.
The infamous no trace of the killer.
Well, he says no one could survive the blast, but Bobby and Jessica just survived the blast.
Yeah, they say that. I mean, that they have to. It's the infamous no trace of the killer. You got to set up a second movie. There's no way that he survived this. There's just no way.
We then cut to Jessica's bedroom where she wakes up after hearing a noise coming from her closet. She gets up to investigate but doesn't find anything. And as she turns to walk back to bed, a still on fire Eric grabs her from behind. And then she wakes up. It was just a nightmare. And that is the end of Thanksgiving.
She wakes up next to that douchebag, which is a real nightmare.
I just don't like that they put them two together at the end.
Yeah, I didn't think that they were gonna. They set it up like she's gonna get back with Bobby.
Bad move, man.
He's like saves her at the end. Yeah, that's weird. I hope they fixed that in the sequel.
I agree.
But I did. So that was the classic Friday the 13th dream sequence ending.
Yeah,
the jump scare. I dig it.
Yeah.
Dig the ending.
Yeah, fun movie, man. So, according to filmmaker Eli Roth, the film that was advertised per fake trailer in the Grindhouse from 2007 was actually, this is what the original thing was. It was a kid who's in love with the turkey, and then his father kills it. And then he killed his family and goes away to a mental institution and comes back later to take revenge on the town.
For the turkey's life.
Now,
Genius.
This is very similar to My Bloody Valentine, where he's in a mental institution.
I wouldn't say very similar. Nobody fell in love with the turkey.
Besides the turkey part, the guy goes crazy, he kills somebody, then he goes to the mental institution, then he escapes and comes back and takes revenge on the town.
That part, definitely.
But they totally changed it, which I see why.
Yeah, that would have. They made the movie they wanted to make, but they made it more serious.
Yeah.
That would have been another Thanksgiving. It could have been hilarious.
I would have liked it, but I don't think it would have made like $59 million.
No.
So Patrick Dempsey's agent reached out to Eli Roth to express the actor's interest in participating in the movie. Roth was excited about the idea, but said that he didn't think the production could afford Dempsey's rate. His agent assured him, no, Patrick really wants to do a horror movie. He read the script and he loved it. Dempsey grew up in a small town in Maine and was actually able to use his natural New England accent for this movie, which he actually hadn't been able to use in a long time since he became like a really big established actor.
I had to get rid of that shit.
Yeah, fucking gooba chucka.
Fuck you, Mark Wahlberg.
But it was really cool that he was willing to take, he's like, pay me whatever you want. I just want to be in this horror movie, which is awesome. And I'm pretty sure he's about to be in the new Scream. They're finally bringing him back from when he was in Scream 3.
Nice.
Yeah. Eli Roth wanted all of the film's kills to not only be gory and creative, paying homage to the creative kills of the golden age of slasher films, such as Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Happy Birthday to Me, and My Bloody Valentine.
They mentioned My Bloody.
Yes,
that's cool.
Specifically.
I didn't do. And you didn't mention it, but we're both pretty fucking sick. I've been sick all week. I didn't really do any of the background stuff. I'll let that up to you. But Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm glad that
he
they mentioned that.
specifically named these were movies that he wanted to pay homage to. That's why we get so many kills, so many different kills, and so many kind of ridiculous kills.
And that was one thing that really stood out to me too. Is I heard the Scream reference so many times. Like it's just like so many people, even the people who didn't really care for it, the people who loved it said the same thing. It's like a Thanksgiving Scream.
Yeah, I remember that. But
I definitely seen just as much, if not more,
I've
of
seen
the
more.
influence from the late 70s, early 80s, the golden age of horror.
Yeah, I get way more 80s horror than 90s.
Yeah,
for me personally.
you get this tragedy that happens on this holiday or certain date, and then an anniversary comes back, and a killer starts killing people, and it's a whodunit.
Yeah.
And that is very like that's similar to a lot of those, but very My Bloody Valentine, which was inspired from Friday the 13th.
Yep. All right. So ratings and kill count. We got a total kills. Some people vary this somewhere between 13, 15. Some people count things that I personally wouldn't count. Like the official kill count literally counted Jessica's mom. And also
They count the cat.
Amanda's baby that hadn't been born yet. I didn't count any of that. So
some of the kill count people, man, I've realized they like try to come up with
too many.
anything that they can find. If I can find a kill that nobody else found.
Jessica stepped on a bug and an hour into the movie, and that's a kill. So I counted 13. So we have Doug, who was a security guard that was trampled to death. We have the unnamed male shopper, which is the guy who bled out after having his neck cut that really wanted that waffle thing. You have Amanda, who is killed with a shopping cart. You have the waitress Lizzie, who is cut in half by the dumpster. Manny, who is the other security guard, who had his head cut off by Carver. Lonnie, who had his neck snapped by Carver. Cheerleader Amy, who was stabbed with a knife on the trampoline. Yulia, who was cut by being thrown on the table saw. Lionel, who is actually had to try to figure out who that was. That's actually the guy in the turkey suit who got his head chopped off. Then we have unnamed Grandpa, is what I call him, who got impaled by the fake boat at the parade.
They gave the turkey guy a name, but not the grandpa.
Yeah.
This kill was much more personal.
Yeah. Then you have Kathleen, who was stabbed with a pitchfork / cooked to death in an oven. Evan, who had his head bashed in by the meat tenderizer. And then we have a questionable Sheriff Eric / John Carver, who is presumably killed in the explosion, but
He's not dead.
I don't think he's dead. All right, so favorite kill. I don't actually know who goes first.
I think you went first last week.
I did.
So I'll take this
All right.
one. So my favorite kill was Kathleen being basted and cooked like a fucking turkey.
Of course.
And being served on the dinner tables. The fucking ultimate Thanksgiving slasher kill. I would say second for me would be Yulia getting cut up with the table saw. I love the detail, like her trying to catch herself. Like generally a lot of movies would just have her fall into it and it cut her up. But like the detail of her trying to catch herself and her hand getting cut in half, her fingers getting cut off and then falling into it. And then whenever she's pulled back and she's just disemboweled. Thought that was awesome.
Yeah, actually, this is kind of one of the first movies in a long time where I had a real hard time. I knew what was going to be my number one because of how awesome it was. Not really because of how great it looked, but just how cool it was and how it went with the plot of the movie. So I knew what my favorite kill was going to be, but what was going to be my number two? I had a really hard time. And I really liked Yulia, and I really liked the grandpa getting stabbed in the fucking face. There's just some good kills here, but I ended up going with Yulia too. I thought it was a good one.
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing, but I wrestled with whether or not I should do Yulia as my favorite kill, because normally I go by what looks the best as like the best practical effects, but this is a special scenario, so I ended up going with Kathleen getting the top spot just because that kill is fucking iconic. It is the best kill
Best
for
Thanksgiving kill.
Thanksgiving that you could possibly do.
All right, so rating.
All right. So when we initially watched this movie, we did our end of the year ratings. I think
I don't remember what I rated it.
I have my rating, so I had it at a 4.3, and I'm gonna bump it up to a 4.4.
Oh,
I
okay.
think, yeah, give it a 4.4. So I think it's a slasher that has everything that a fucking slasher has to have. Like we talked about, it's a great mix of influence from slashers from the late 70s, 80s, and 90s. You know, you got tragedy on a holiday, killer in a mask, give him a signature weapon, a group of teens to pick off, awesome kills, and a killer fueled by vengeance. The only thing we're missing here is like weed and titties.
Oh, good point.
If we would have had that with some premarital sex, it would have been the perfect combo. I think it filled a much needed void in the lack of Thanksgiving horror movies. Like even we talked about Valentine's Day has a fucking its own horror movie, but Thanksgiving really hadn't had a horror slasher that was a huge movie. I think this kind of filled that void. The kills were super creative, super savage. Could not believe we were getting a character basted like a turkey and cooked alive. Practical effects were good. I will say that the CGI, there was a couple CGI spots that I didn't care for. I would love to clean that up. My first time seeing John Carver, I actually hated his look. Like the first time I seen this movie, but after watching it again, I think it's the perfect get up for a Thanksgiving slasher killer, and I think I love the signature weapon of the axe. Jessica's an okay final girl. I think she's pretty good. I didn't have any major complaints about her. Overall, I think Eli Roth delivered what I would say is the best Thanksgiving horror movie to date, and a really good ode to the slashers of the past.
I gave it a 4.1. I can't remember what I rated it before. I do remember that I was a little bummed that it wasn't in the Grindhouse style like I was hoping. That was a big downer for me. I'm kind of over that at this point. So I gave it a 4.1. I would have liked to have gave it a 4.5, but I am very disappointed in the CGI of the, probably the most famous kill from the trailer is the cheerleader kill, and they CGI'd that. That's super disappointing. And then, we get the guy at the apartment or whatever with the turkey carver or whatever, that's CGI. So I would have gave it probably a 4.5 if it wasn't for that. Also, another thing is, I honestly don't like Jessica as a final girl. I think she's about as interesting as cardboard to me. Literally, they could have just did a cardboard cutout and it would have been the same. It's not really anything with her acting. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's
she is kind of a boring character. I thought that the end though, she had a good strong point. That the school scene, she fights him off, although she picks the dumbest hiding spot ever and somehow gets away with that. But she does fight him off, so that is some credit. Some final girls don't have even that. And the idea at the end though to film him,
that was smart.
That was great.
But I don't root for her like I do like Sidney Prescott or Nancy Thompson. Like I don't, or even Alice from, who's only been in, the one Friday the 13th, but I root for her the whole time. And I don't root for her, for Jessica here. Like I really don't. I remember the first time I seen it, honestly, I left the theater and I couldn't remember. Like if you put all of the, if you put her and Gabby next to each other, I couldn't fucking point out which one was which. Yeah. I really don't know because they're like the same person.
You have like a Lauren Rivera, I think it is, from Terrifier.
Yeah,
like
she's for her.
Somebody you root for.
I root for her from the very beginning when I seen her on the screen. Like I was like, she's cool. I don't, I think they could have got a better final girl for this.
I think they could have wrote a better final girl.
Yeah, she's just she's almost like if AI made a final girl, But other than that, I loved it. Like I love the different kills. The kills are fantastic. It's a fantastic slasher. If you're a fan of 80s slashers, I think this is right up your alley. They did an awesome job, I would say. I really look forward to the second one, and I do like this movie. This, watching it my second or third time, even fourth time than I did when I originally watched it.
Yeah, I didn't even get into like cinematography. Eli Roth has proved that he can shoot a beautiful movie, and there is some cool setup shots. But mainly these type of movies, like a slasher, it's the kills are the highlight.
It's
the kills and the killer.
It's the kills, the little bit of comedy. It's the killer,
So John Carver also had awesome like humor. Like when he brings Kathleen in there, and she's like, that's no way to greet Kathleen, who's been cooking all day for Thanksgiving dinner. Like making the joke that she's been cooking in the oven. Like I thought that was fucking hilarious. It's like a Freddy Krueger line.
And another thing is which is, doesn't happen often, but they really got me with the killer because Patrick Dempsey does a great job of playing the nice guy. Like he's like the last guy you think it would be. And then they pull this motive out that's like, holy shit, I didn't even think about that. It's not like super unique, but it was well hidden in the plot.
Well, they
give him credit for that.
The movie off with them too.
Yeah.
With him going to the house and so they covered that up so good because she's married to somebody else and
I love the whole excuse of, I need you to help me identify people so I can help them because they might be targets, but in reality, he's just getting more targets.
Yeah.
And that is a genius move too. Yeah, I mean, I really like the movie. It's super fun. It'll catch you off guard.
I also love like when he was questioning them after the murder started. Like he's trying to find out what they know, as a front to, help me solve this murder or find out who this killer is. But in reality, he's just clarifying that they have that nobody has a lead on him. Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's a good time. Fun movie. So once again, we thank you guys for listening. Happy Thanksgiving. We hope you have a wonderful holiday with great friends and family. Remember to please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website, check out the socials. Tell a friend, a family member, or your Thanksgiving turkey about the show. We hope to see you next time. You got any last words?
Somebody get Kathleen out the oven.
All killer and no filler.